Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Mālama Kauaʻi's Mahi ʻAi webinar. My name is Stormy Souza. I am born and raised on the east side of Kauaʻi, and I'm the Food Access Alaka'i with Mālama Kauaʻi, which is a nonprofit organization. We push food, basically. So we help with the local distribution of local food and also support the food production side for our local farmers. And here we have Jenna Dunn from NRCS and Eric Bowman from Feed the Hunger. We're all here today for you guys to talk about access to capital and how we can help support you in growing and scaling up your local commercial food business. I would like to mahalo the Native American Agricultural Fund and Hawaii People's Fund for supporting this project and making this possible. I will hand it over to Eric Bowman and he can introduce himself and his program. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui, Stormy. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and aloha. I have a brief presentation, maybe 15 minutes, and I would invite both of you to go ahead and interrupt me. I'm going to just share my screen here. Are you guys seeing the slide deck there?
Yes.
Awesome, thanks. Yep, so I'm with Feed the Hunger Fund. I'm just going to introduce myself, talk a little bit about my role, what we do as a loan fund, and then provide a couple of examples. Just on a personal note, I currently live on Hawaii Island, but work around the islands. I have a kind of a background in food and agriculture, kind of as it relates to alternative finance and working with markets that don't often have access to capital. As such, I'm also a volunteer with a CDFI credit union in Waimea, Hawaii First FCU. They do a lot of residential home lending. Just a couple photos. It's me in El Salvador working with a group of cashew growers that supplied Equal Exchange, and actually worked with co-ops and ag co-ops for many years. Is actually what pulled me into working here in Hawaii, and worked in some, I would say, multifamily housing. That's me at the mobile home community in Eastern Washington on the right-hand side. So I'm a loan officer with Feed the Hunger Fund. That means I work with businesses who are seeking money. They reach out to me, I review their financial situation, and I kind of balance their need with their capacity to repay, and then make a recommendation to a loan committee. We have a couple photos of our borrowers here. That's Mickey with Mother Nature's Miracle on the Hamakua Coast here on Hawaii Island. And there's a couple of guys who started Hamakua Coast Premium. They do a mac nut orgeat and some other like ube syrups for bars. It's becoming more prevalent here on Hawaii Island. May actually be at some resorts on Kauaʻi also. So we're a very small loan fund. We do a small bit of lending in California, the Central Valley. About 2/3 of our work here is in Hawaii. I'm the only loan officer on Hawaii Island. We got a couple of loan officers on Oahu. We kind of tag team some of the outer islands like Kauaʻi. So we get capital from a variety of sources: private family foundations, state government, local government, the federal government. We have some money, for example, for KS, who have us prioritizing lending to their tenants. So we're a loan fund, and we seek sources of capital and borrowers. Who do we work with on other loans? We work again we do some co-lending, like with Seabed. We work pretty closely with some of the other agricultural lenders, like American Ag Credit. We've partnered with OHA and some of their, is it the Mālama loan program that they have? And we work, banks and other credit unions will send us folks. They're like, I really want to work with this person, but I can't. Can you guys take a second look? So as a loan fund, we're really focused on food and agriculture. This means we work with a lot of restaurants, and a lot of farms, meat processors, distributors. We do smaller loans, 5,000 to $250,000. Average loan size is about 50,000 to 60,000. Shorter term loans, 5 to 7 years. And our focus is really taking risks that others won't. That's a photo of Kahelani. She has Mokuvai Pikapoi, has some lohi down in Waipio Valley, and then a poi mill in Honoka'a. She's got a big contract with Costco. She supplies a lot of their poi. She does a kind of snackification too, where you get like just a little, calls them a poi pot. So it's her and her partner Bubba there and her folks. So in the last 14 years or so, we've got out about 174 loans. And, year to date, we've done almost 24 loans. Our borrowers are overwhelmingly women and overwhelmingly minorities and disproportionately Native Hawaiian. That's a photo there of Ziggy. He's got Sage Lana Farm on the Hamakua coast. He purchased like a 10-acre fruit farm, and he does some jams and jellies that helps kind of take care of his family. Some of the recent sectors we've worked with: beekeepers, poultry producers, mushroom growers, flowers, a lot of veggie producers, some coffee growers. There's Ashley in Kula. She's got Petalum Floral. She grows a lot of flowers for the wedding industry, actually. She's at this high elevation, so she can grow some of the non-tropical flowers, I guess you would say, some of the stuff that would otherwise have to be imported, dahlias and that kind of thing. So before I talk about case studies, I just want to share this really ugly diagram for a second and say where I see a lot of small businesses, they reach out and they're like, I'm profitable, I'm growing, why am I broke? I'm like, well, because you've locked up all your cash or quote unquote working capital in this cycle. So you take, let's say you're a farmer, you grow carrots and you only 6 weeks or whatever till they're ready. Well, you got to pay for the land, you got to pay for the labor, you got to pay for the fertilizer, pay for the gas. Then you turn that all into accounts payable at the farm supply store. Then you spend this period of time growing your inventory. Then you wash it, package it. Then you send it out to the grocery stores, the food distributors. Now you have account receivable. You don't have cash. You've got a little slip of paper that says they owe you money. And then maybe their accounting department's going to pay you in six weeks, 4 weeks. So as you grow, just more and more and more of your cash gets into this cycle. And then you need working capital to support that growth. So I would say that's like a best case scenario for when we get to work with the farmer. I'm going to talk about some of the borrowers that we've worked with, just to give you an idea of who we are interacting with on a day-to-day basis. So Kelly at the Musubi Truck, you may recognize them. They've got a couple of locations around Kauaʻi. They are working to open the third location now, actually. And they have a truck parked down there at Kuloa. And then they're building out a brick and mortar facility right in front of where their vehicle is. So there's capital improvements they got to put in, tenant improvements, equipment. There's just a lot of equipment that goes into a restaurant, and just that cash conversion cycle I was describing consumes some debt. So we're gonna support that for them. Another food truck in Kauaʻi, Carabella's. That's Isaiah. He also has, I think, Kauai kimchi. His family has Kauai kimchi, and he's kind of going off on his own and has purchased Carabella's. So you had a family that had purchased Carabella's from another set of owners. I don't know, 6 or 14. It was a while ago that the sellers had purchased it, and they operated it, had a nice life chapter, and now they're ready to retire. So they have this brand and recipes, and they found a young man with experience in the restaurant industry who was eager to buy it, but usually people aren't going to have that kind of money sitting around. So we helped to finance basically his purchase of the food truck and company of Carabella's. You may have seen them at some of the farmer markets there on Kauaʻi. Another Kauaʻi borrower. This is Boon Lai. He's one of those Thai growers that you'll see at the Grove Farmers Market. He needed a new tractor. That's his beautiful new tractor right there. And he sold his old tractor and had a very specific tractor that he wanted to buy. I can't remember the whole situation, but basically was getting it used, was going to get it shipped. So, if you go to a dealer, you can just apply for financing on site. But because he wasn't going to a dealer, he needed the capital on hand to purchase this tractor from off island, basically. Another borrower that we have, Freeform Hawaii, that is Amanda. She is a woodworker born and raised here on Hawaii Island. They've got a contract with the Park Service. They make all these little engraved earrings and the Hawaiian game board, some of these lanterns that you see there. And she and her partner are opening up a new location down on Ali'i, which is kind of the Waikiki of Hawaii Islands, where the big tourist area is. So again, they got to like kind of remodel the space, put in shelving, equipment, and just basically working capital. Because again, as they've been growing, they go out and they buy a bunch of lumber. Then they've got an inventory of just lumber sitting around. Then they got to pour all this time into making it into these beautiful pieces of artwork. Then it's going to sit on their shelves, in their garage or wherever. They have an Etsy store, and then people will slowly buy it. So just more of their cash is in the form of lumber and product that they. So that anyways, growing business needed some working capital. And then finally, just I'll talk a minute about Mahi and May. On Ohea there, you'll see her on the right-hand side. She and her partner have been in fine dining for a long time. And during the pandemic, she started researching freeze-dried. I guess this has become a whole TikTok, I sound like such an old man right now, trend, where people are really into freeze-dried candy and freeze-dried treats. She has those kimchi cucumbers, which is one of the savory, it's like one of her big sellers. And, it's more like snack food, I guess. She in Hawaii here in North Kohala on the northern part of Hawaii Island. She's opening up a retail location, got a little shop there in kind of Kauaʻi, Hawaii area, and went from selling these out of the trunk of a car, quite literally, to having these pop-up markets. To I need a place, I need multiple dryers, I need more space, more of a kitchen environment to be able to do this freeze drying. So we helped with her startup, and because she had that business history and experience with the product and the customer base and the established brand, we felt very comfortable being able to support her in that. So I was just talking to Jenna. We help with some NRCS equip loans, which I think she'll talk more about in a few minutes. Some of the loans that we've also seen is refinancing. The inflation has kind of caught them off guard. Maybe they have some credit card debt associated with the business. You cannot lend on anything that's personal. It has to be business. Sometimes people find themselves in, I would say, predatory situations with a merchant cash advance, square loans, or these kind of things that they start tapping when they are struggling with working capital or profitability and cash flow. Inflation management. We've had some people come to us and say, I normally buy X amount of glass jars and I want to buy 10X, get a pallet of this stuff in, just to fill a container because I'm having a hard time getting it. The price is higher every time I go to buy it. So I want to just buy it now before it goes up in price one more time and try and get a discount because I'm able to buy more. Equipment. Actually, track loader, we did that for Kahealani at Mokovai, Pikapoi. She needed just a skid steer, actually. That's what we did. She needed something to kind of move around between the lohi to be able to do work on her farm. Commercial truck repair is somebody that does a lot of delivery there. Bodette services, they needed to rebuild an engine. Man, it's so expensive to do work on those trucks. And an on-farm kitchen. Had the beekeeper was brewing June, which is kind of like a kombucha type product, and had built out basically a commercial kitchen on his farm and needed some equipment to kind of wrap that up. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of sort of some of the borrowers that we're working with. At minimum, what we need to look at a loan is the business has to be engaged in commercial activity. As I was mentioning, it cannot be a personal loan. We're going to need tax returns. This means you need to have filed your taxes, and we will need a year-to-date profit and loss statement. So the deeper into the year it is, like right now it's October. So, we're going to need to see 7, 8, 9 months of accounting of financial activity, sort of an income and expense or profit and loss up until this point in time in the year. And a household budget. So, in a nutshell, what we do is we look at the business, we look at the household, we put those two things together and say, can this situation support additional debt given whatever else is going on? And if the answer to that question is yes, usually we can find a solution. I was just texting with restaurateur this morning, went out, had barbecue last night, had some really good barbecue. And he was like, hey, what about this situation? You know, I said, oh yeah, we do, you know, we work with small businesses, give me a call. And then he was like, well, what about this? Would this work? You know, and suddenly we're kind of going back and forth, given the dynamics of whatever it is that they're dealing with. And, you know, I think we really start from a place of what is your need and how do we solve it? Like, we're not trying to figure out how to say no, we're trying to figure out how to say yes. So the bottom line is, how is the loan going to be repaid? I mean, this is what every lender, every loan officer is working on. It's not a grant. It's a loan, and it's unethical for us to make a loan if we can't chart a path to repayment. Usually, the denials that we do experience are there's no income right now. Everything is anticipated in the future. That's not a situation that we're very good with dealing with. But usually, if there's something going on with the household, we can look at the whole global picture and figure out how we can come up with a solution. So I guess the bottom line I would say is, if you want to think through your options and you think you might be ready to raise money, you're confused how to get started, you're feeling overwhelmed, you just want to do some financial planning. You just want to be like, here's what's going on. When might I be ready? That's a lot of the conversations I have. So I would just encourage a landowner, a farmer, or a small business owner, operator, just give me a call. We'll talk story. Well, that's pretty much all I have. Stormy and Jenna, are there any questions that you might have? Anything I didn't cover that you would like me to respond to?
That was an excellent presentation. I love how slim your slides are, straight and to the point. That's my favorite, and I strive for that. You won't get that in my presentation. Apologies in advance. Um, I did have a question, like when you were talking about how to like when it's time to reach out to you, and these are the taxes that you want, and then also like my household budget, like how formal does that need to be on a spreadsheet, or can I just write it on a piece of paper and bring it in or take a picture? Like, how do people bring that to you?
That is such an excellent question, Stormy. So I'll give you an ideal situation and an unideal situation. So an ideal situation is we have an online loan portfolio. I'll send you a link and you'll just upload everything. Sometimes if you're an established business, you maybe have a bookkeeper and they're like, oh, let me text my bookkeeper and they'll send me a year-to-date P&L right now. That would be like a very small number of people that we work with. You know, some of those loans that I've been working on lately, the person doesn't even speak English. I've got a CTAR person translating on Zoom, just like this. And everything is working through almost them like an intermediary. They maybe don't have, it's like, you know, their P&L maybe looks a little like this, you know, it's hard to read and it's on paper. And the more formal, the more tidy, the more everything's together, obviously, the easier it is for us, particularly to do a bigger loan. But, you know, I think we really work to meet people where they are at. A lot of times people haven't filed taxes. I'm working with an immigrant farmer right now, and they didn't make any money last year, so they thought they didn't need to file taxes. And you know, we looked at it really hard and we're like, you know what, you're real. And I've been working with them for months and months. And so finally they found somebody to file their taxes. We're like, great, let's go. You got them. High five. We can do this now. You know, so even when people don't have the things, a lot of times we can help them figure out what those things are, get them to a referral, and just go with what they might have, and then help them figure it out. You know, least desirable is I'm looking at bank statements for 9 months, adding everything up in a spreadsheet myself, and trying to figure out what's going on with the business.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
I had a question. So you said that thanks for the plug for eQuip. I should say it's not a loan, it is an award. So your slide was correct. So when you guys are working with people who have an eQuip contract with us, are you helping maybe with the loan for the part that eQuip doesn't cover for the installation of the practice?
We've totally done that. Yes, actually, because yours is a cost share. So you don't generally pay for 100%. Sometimes that happens, but frequently there might be a cost overrun or something costs a little different. I think in one of the situations, I'm going to like super simplify. So 4 greenhouses, the farm service agency, maybe you guys did like you released a 50% initiation payment for so let's say it's 100 grand, 25K per greenhouse. So then you release whatever, I'm just making this up, 50 grand to get the first 2 greenhouses, and then you'll get that, and then we'll get the other 2. And something happened, there was delays, they were running out of time. They're like, we just need 25 grand to meet the, I'm not going to get these terms right, but to meet basically the benchmarks that they had agreed to with you guys. So that maybe, I don't know if it was necessarily a cost overrun, maybe they spent the money on something else, or they weren't going to get any more money from you guys and they needed more to finish it. And then once they finished it, then they would get the rest of the money from you guys, because it is, I think, a reimbursement, right?
Sort of, yes. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that made it muddier or not.
Yeah. So if I had someone who had an EQIP contract with us and they want to do the practice, but it is the payment from us does come after the practice is installed. So just to get going, they could maybe talk to you to get just to get started, and then once it's complete, then we can come in and pay out whatever that line item is on that contract.
Exactly. I mean, depending on what's going on with them, I know the Farm Service Agency, your partners at the also at the USDA, are very accustomed to doing those kind of loans. Sometimes for a variety of reasons, they might not be eligible. That's usually when we're stepping in. Maybe the FSA is, I'm huge partners with the FSA, but the federal government has different requirements than we do. We can be a little bit more flexible sometimes. They can't do refinancing. We can. So, there's a little less paperwork. I've had somebody say, like, I just wanted to work with you guys because there's less paperwork, basically. But when they have that USDA award, the NRCS award, it's called a bridge loan. So it's like a 3-month loan, maybe it's interest only, maybe it's a 6-month loan, so however long it's going to take them to do the thing. And then we just kind of step in as soon as then they get repaid by you, then our loan is repaid. If that makes sense.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. And I'll touch on it a little bit more in my presentation, but we do for certain clients we are able to do an advance payments. That's what you were referring to, where they can get 50% of what we have set aside for them for a certain practice just to get started. So thanks.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much, Eric. That was super informative, and mahalo for sharing your contact. I'll definitely include it in the description on this YouTube recording, so you can reach out to Feed the Hunger directly. Mahalo, Eric. And we're going to jump over to Jenna Dunn from NRCS, and she can share her screen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenna. I'm sure you can see that I go by she, her. I am the district conservationist for the island of Kauaʻi, and let me make sure this works. Can you guys see everything?
Yes.
Okay. So thanks for having me today. Oh, it's recording what I'm saying. Okay. So this looks like a lot of topics, but some of them are going to go very quickly. My slides are not as streamlined as Eric's, unfortunately. So I'm going to do a little intro on conservation planning and farm bill programs. Then I'm going to focus in on EQIP and CSP. I know those are acronyms, but I will explain what those mean, and then let you know how the farm bill cycle went on Kauaʻi in 2024. A brief introduction to the Inflation Reduction Act. Go over the priority resource concerns identified by our local work group that we just had recently, cover some common practices that we see on Kauaʻi, and then get into application information and contact information. So one of the things, the backbone, the base of what we do is conservation planning and technical assistance. So ag operations are encouraged to utilize conservation practices, and this helps protect natural resources. NRCS looks at soil, water, air, plants, animals, and to a certain degree, energy and human resource concerns as well. This can also be an important step in developing your conservation plan, but it does not replace your conservation plan. So as you can see, it helps identify resource concerns, ideas to mitigate or address those concerns, protect the resources. And NRCS does have technical information available that will be site specific to your operation, and we do not charge for services. So this is a lot of information on one slide. Since this is being recorded, this is an opportunity to pause. But just really quickly, we have conservation technical assistance, which is what I went over in the previous slide. Our environmental quality incentives program, EQIP. This is one of the main ones that I'm going to share on. Our ag management assistance program, which is very similar to EQIP. Our conservation stewardship program, which is another one that I'm going to go into more detail on in a bit. Our regional conservation partnership program, which is RCPP. It's very similar to EQIP in what it does, and our agricultural conservation easement program, or ASEP. Okay, so now we're on to EQIP. Again, that's the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. So this program focuses on addressing or mitigating existing natural resource concerns. So some examples that we see commonly are resource concerns related to soil health, soil erosion, irrigation efficiency, stock water, pasture health. It is site specific, like I mentioned earlier. So you may have some or all of these or a whole different set of resource concerns. And like we mentioned earlier, it is a cost share program. People who participate in this are awarded a contract, and we aim to cover 50 to 75% of the cost of implementing the practice, depending on certain factors like can a client or a producer do a lot of the work themselves, or do they have to hire someone to help them? This percentage can fluctuate. So 50 to 75% is just a real rough estimate. So it's important to keep in mind, though, that practices can be started after funds are obligated, and we've completed our consultation with Fish and Wildlife Service and State Historic Preservation Department. So, and then payment comes after practices are installed. There is that option for the advance payment for producers that are considered historically underserved, and you can work with your planner to determine whether or not you fall into that category. The next program I'd like to highlight is our Conservation Stewardship Program, or CSP. This is intended to maintain or enhance current levels of stewardship. Practices or enhancements can be done anytime during the year. It is a 5-year contract with annual payments, and those payments come either at the end of the calendar year or the beginning of the next, depending on the client's preference, because our payments are considered, they are taxable, so you do have to report them. And recently, our minimum annual payment went up to $4,000. So that's a CSP contract with us is a $20,000 contract because it's a minimum of $4,000 over the course of 5 years. It can be more depending on the operation and what's going to be achieved through the contract. So this year on Kauaʻi, we only had contracts for these two programs, EQIP. We had 12 contracts, so we obligated just over $1.1 million. And for CSP, we had 4 contracts at $118,000. So definitely a lot of room to grow, especially in CSP. CSP nationally is a larger program than EQIP, so I really think it can be very beneficial for Kauaʻi, especially thinking about some agroforestry practices and projects, especially smaller scale. So the Inflation Reduction Act. It is an investment in climate smart agriculture and clean energy solutions. It is $9.5 billion in additional funds for over 5 years, and that's administered through the Farm Bill, or the 19.5 of it was in the Farm Bill. And so this year is our fiscal year 2025 is going to be the peak of our IRA or Inflation Reduction Act funding in NRCS. So now's a great time to sign up, but it will be available through 2027. And then the available categories in 2024 for Pacific Islands area, sorry, I didn't say what that was on my slide, are soil health, grazing, forestry, agroforestry, and upland wildlife habitat. So recently we had our local work group. We have this every year. Anyone is invited to come give their input and their feedback. We'd love to hear from anybody involved in ag or conservation. So the highest priority resource concerns identified this year by the group were water resources, so source water depletion and water use efficiency, as well as soil health, organism habitat loss or degradation, and soil quality limitations. Other resource concerns that we discussed, the next highest one was degraded plant community or condition. So this is pest pressure on rangeland, pastureland, forest land, not on crop and orchard, but then also degraded windbreaks. Now, this is, I think, the fun part, the common practices on Kauaʻi. And I used as many Kauaʻi specific pictures as I could. I don't think I got one that wasn't. Oh, I did. I got one picture that wasn't island specific. Okay, so high tunnel systems, we do a lot of these. So you can see the two different examples. There's the rounded, we call that Quonset, and then the A-frame, we call that Gothic. Some things to keep in mind are we do require a manufactured kit. The area must currently be in production, meaning the footprint that the high tunnel is going to go over. And the plants under the high tunnel must be in the ground or in raised beds no taller than 12 inches or 1 foot. We do a lot of irrigation and irrigation water management. So you can see there's an example of some drip tape. Oh, I totally lied. Some of these pictures are stock pictures. But micro irrigation systems, water storage, sometimes rainwater catchment. That ties back to that source water depletion. There are some parameters on when we can and cannot capture rainwater, but if someone does have a water source that's maybe not 100% reliable year round, we can help with tanks to store the water when it is available, so then the client can use it when their normal source is out. And then irrigation record keeping, so that's making sure the plants are getting what they need when they need it, not too much, not too little. Cover crop and mulching. These are really common. This is tied to that soil health resource concern. So cover crop can be single species or multi-species. This is a picture of a lab and sun hemp combined. And then the mulching can be paper, natural materials, or geotextile. And then there's an example of each of those. Crop rotation is gaining a lot of interest here. This is something that the local work group discussed to help with soil health. And so that's planting a sequence of diverse crops on the same ground over a period of time. And then windbreaks, again, I mentioned that from the local work group. It's something we see a lot of. They can be single row or multiple row. They can be fruit bearing as long as it is maintained and functions as a windbreak. And that's for established windbreaks, but we can also do windbreak renovation, which could be topping or pruning existing windbreaks, or even if you've got a dead tree or two in your windbreak, taking that out and replanting. So up at the top left is an example of a jackfruit soursop windbreak. And so That's a multi-species, multi-row, and you can see in the picture how you've got the taller trees, and then you can see through them and see that the lower area is filled in by the other row of trees. And then upper right is not really an effective windbreak. You've got bananas there, and they're too far apart, so that's managed more like a planting that might be harvested versus something that's intended to block the wind. And then the bottom two pictures are topped ironwood. And so you can see the one on the left is pretty soon after topping. And then on the one on the right, it's started to fill in and really function as a windbreak. Forest farming or agroforest. So for us, we do require a 20% native component. And we are looking at, so agroforestry, there are a lot of different types. So I'm looking mostly at multi-story cropping in this slide. So lots of canopy levels. You've got your overstory, you've got a couple different levels of understory plants, and then ground cover. And the idea is to improve crop diversity by growing mixed but compatible crops having different heights in the same area. And we've noticed a lot of interest in this type of planting or other similar agroforestry practices on island. Pasture improvements. There are several different things that we can do to help improve pastures. It can be invasive species removal. We've all seen the albizia all over. Forage planting. So if you do take out a bunch of invasive woody species, replanting with forage, or if you wanted to do silvopasture to make sure there's shade there for the animals. Stock water systems. So that's tanks, troughs, pipelines, cross fencing, and rotational grazing to make sure all of that forage is adequately utilized by the cattle or the livestock. Okay, so working with us. So we accept applications year-round. That's EQIP, CSP, all the other programs from my first slide. But we do have cutoff dates or sign-up deadlines so that we can start to consider applications for funding. Our next program application cutoff should be early November. We don't have, it hasn't been officially released yet. We're looking at maybe first or second week of November, potentially will be our next batching period. But we will get a press release, and then Stormy, I'll send you what the final dates are once I know what they are. And then this picture here shows how basically the overview of like how it is working with NRCS. So the first step is planning. You can come in, you can talk to us, and we can work on a conservation plan. That's getting out to your land. It's discussing your priorities, maybe some of your challenges, and then you can apply for funding. So it could be EQIP, could be CSP. So you can take part of your conservation plan or all of your conservation plan and apply for financial assistance. And we will work with you on eligibility. There's a few different forms that we have to go through. Staff here are happy to help walk you through it. And then we will rank the applications because we do have a set amount of money that we get. And we rank like with like. So cropland is going to be ranked with cropland, forest with forest, and whatnot. And then you will implement the practices, and we can come out and certify and process the payment afterwards. That's a very simplified how it works with us. So here's contact information. This QR code will open up your phone contacts and put me right in there. But we also have 2 soil conservationists in our office, Devin Martinez-Orengo and Jonathan Kelly. Their emails and work cells are here. These phone numbers are our work cell phone numbers. Those are the best numbers to reach us at. However, we do have a main line that's down at the bottom here. And there's also our mailing address. We are also at this address every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Thank you. And do you guys have questions?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Jenna. That was a great
That was a
presentation.
great presentation.
Ooh.
Oh.
So my question was about how do you know what, how do I know what invasive species might be applicable for removal through your program?
So that would be working with the planner. So we go out there. Some people might not even know what
It
what
is.
the plant name is. They'll just be like, hey, this thing is growing here. And there was
Yeah.
one before, and now it's like this whole area is this particular plant. And so we can come out, help identify it, and let you know. We can come up with ways to address it in the conservation plan and then let you know whether or not that would fit into a program. And then someone can apply for help with invasive species removal through a program.
Cool. I know some kalo farmers that have a lot of trees growing right next to their ʻAuai and their
Mm.
with their waterway. And so not only does it like all the tree debris fall into the ʻAuai, which then requires more cleaning of that ditch line, which is very labor intensive and often, but then the roots are also, you know, disturbing the actual ʻAuai itself. And so yeah, removing those trees would be really helpful. I'm wondering if that situation is eligible for your folks.
It would depend. Just taking out the tree, probably not, but I don't want to say no for sure. But if it was replanted,
Mm.
um, with maybe like a native hedgerow or something, I could see that
Okay.
being beneficial because then you've got your habitat for native insects.
Mhm.
Um,
That's helpful because the trees are like Java plum, monkey pod, Emea.
yeah, so we cannot work on pest like pest removal on cropland.
That's true.
So if it like yeah, we don't usually do like pest control, and so invasive plants are considered pests because
Oh,
we're aimed at resource conservation, and pest control on cropland is a normal farming practice. And so that's kind of more production. It's very, it can be very complex.
that's interesting. So the invasive tree is looked at as an invasive pest. And so you wouldn't necessarily just help with the removal, but the goal is to replace with something that is native. Is that what I'm hearing?
That would be a benefit. That's not necessarily the goal. So when we remove invasive trees, it's primarily on forest land and grazing lands. And so we're also looking at the intensity of the land use. So I know the situation that you told me is a little different because it's outside of the production area, the lo'i. But
Oh,
if we were to remove invasive plants on cropland just as a blanket, then that land could potentially go into annual crop production, which is a more intense use.
yeah,
So yeah, I know
interesting.
it
Okay.
it can be a lot to wrap your head around.
Would you
Um,
still like after hearing that little bit and just know that it is like next to their lo'i and then further up, and so it's actually a vast amount. So maybe
mhm.
like how the proximity to the actual food production area is.
I would really want to see it even
Okay.
before you gave me that extra information because having the OI there is like, okay, there could be a lot of other factors at play. That's why I really try to stress it's all very site specific because two people could like verbally have this, like when they come in and talk to us, have the same problem, but then you go out there and you're like, oh, there's like this that makes this like one way and then the other one's the other way. So yeah, there could be a lot of other factors.
I love that. No,
Hey,
that's
Jenna,
That's
maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. This is what I usually tell people, and this is flippant, but hopefully it's not too inaccurate. It's like Congress says, we've got these priorities. We want to do these things. And it ranges from having a military to preserving soil. And then it turns to the agencies to make that stuff happen and gives them some money. And then there's some like experts along the way. And then like there's what the public priorities are, and then there's what the farmer needs. And sometimes there's like a Venn diagram where there's like an overlap in there, and they can take care of some of their needs together. But frequently there's a lot of stuff that a farmer is going to need that you guys can assist with or might not be a priority. But really, it's all going to come down to step one. Step one is to contact the farm service agency and get a farm number, right? And step two is to reach out to you and get a get the district conservationist to come out and walk the land and then get a plan. And that it's kind of a long game because you need to get that plan. Then they got to come up with some priorities, and then you got to find out if there's a program that's going to help execute the plan. But everybody that I've known that's done that has benefited enormously and gotten stuff done on their property that they wouldn't have been able to get done otherwise. Is that kind of accurate, or please correct me where I'm not connecting the right dots there?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that information. And also, we're very fortunate on Kauaʻi that NRCS and Farm Service Agency get along really well. So, we will, FSA will, they are in charge of doing the farm number, the track number, all that. But let's say they're in a meeting and you can't get to them, you can come to us and we'll let them know that you're waiting and they will follow up. They're really great. But yes, getting the farm records established with them is the first step. You are exactly right. And they're here the same time we are every day. And then the Venn diagram analogy is pretty good because yeah, NRCS, our priority is addressing existing natural resource concerns. But like your example with the farmer who Bunlai who got the tractor, we don't deal with farm equipment. So that's in his circle of need, but it doesn't overlap our circle of being what we can help with. So I liked that. I feel like there was a third thing that I didn't touch on, but yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And
I
yes,
will
first
add
steps.
that there's a lot of things that all of us could do with our life. And, my experience, the people that work at the NRCS really love the island and that they've made this their life's work and they care about the island and its resources and the land and the people who are farming it. There's this weird attitude sometimes about people that work for the government, but I've just been really impressed with everybody that I've met, both at the USDA Farm Service Agency, but also at the NRCS.
Thank you. Yeah. Uh, everyone that I know that I work with really cares about what they do. So thank you for that.
And everyone I've met from your office in person, like at our previous workshops, I get the same vibe that they're very well aware of like the relationship and history of the government and our indigenous people. And so it's really it feels good to know that there are people in these spaces that really advocate and want to make this work for all, for the betterment of our community and our aina. I think that's really awesome. Mahalo.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we are aware that we are the federal government and that people have, reservations about working with us. So we've worked with people who've gotten pretty far along with us and then they just decide, actually, cold feet, I don't want to go any further, and that's okay. That's why we have just the technical assistance portion. Like even if someone just wants information on what soil's on their property, what plants will do well, we can just give them that also.
That's helpful. And I think that was mentioned that any of the planning you guys do goes to that farmer, correct? Like any of the things you guys create and that you have resources to folks that are like really expensive if you were having to hire them. And that it's, is that correct too?
Yeah. Yeah. So people, we don't necessarily go see a farm and say, hey, like you need a conservation plan. People choose to come in and work with us. Usually they have a friend or a neighbor who's worked with us. And so they'll come in and say, hey, I'm having this issue. I'm just going to go back to windbreak. My windbreaks are overgrown and there's like, half of it's dead or whatever. So yeah, we can come help with the design for the new windbreak, pick out species, let them know best planting techniques, um, and give them that information. And yeah, it goes directly to them. There is also oh, sorry, I swiped. There is also, if someone chooses to work with us, we're working with them and whoever they allow us to discuss their project with. So I'm not going to tell you like, oh, hey, I'm working with, whoever down the road on this, and this. But whatever information we give to farmers, they can share with people, but we don't share what we do with people.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
I would take that a step out too, Jenna, and emphasize, back to your comment about the government. Um, well, I've heard that you guys say this before, and this would involve immigration, taxation, health code. Like you guys aren't enforcement. You're not there to notice stuff. There's like if you see something, you just kind of look away. That's not where this doesn't involve me. It's not my jurisdiction. It's not my Kauaʻi.
We are not regulatory. That is true. If someone has a contract with us, then we do have to make sure the provisions of that contract are being met. If something is federally prohibited, then since we are a federal agency, we can't work with people who are maybe growing things that are federally prohibited without proper permissions in place. So there is that, but we won't. I worked with someone when I worked up in Oregon several years ago who he collected scrap metal and turned it in for money and was worried I was going to like tell the IRS or something. And I was like, nope, that's not what I'm here for. I'm just looking at your trees. Like, he was a very nice man. But yeah, we are federal, so it does seem scary. But for the most part, we just stick to resource conservation.
Awesome. Well, thank you. All right, I'm going to move into our grant program for Mālama Kauaʻi. And just want to thank our presenters for being here in this space. And hopefully they have questions for me too, with my lengthy, wordy slides. But just a reminder to get in touch with Jenna. Of course, you can always go back to her slides where she has the contacts, and then it's also going to be in the description of this YouTube channel or this YouTube recording. And so thank you. And I will jump into my presentation. Reiterate that I work for Mālama Kauaʻi, which is a community-based nonprofit organization. We focus on local food production and access as well as consumption of that local food here on Kauaʻi to build up our resiliency here on the island. This org has been in action since 2006. I joined in 2020 after getting laid off from my restaurant job during the pandemic. And, honestly, just on a personal note, I'm from the island of Kauaʻi. I come from a long generation of Kanaka Maoli farmers, fishermen, paniolo, mostly based here on the island of Kauaʻi, but also have ohana on Maui. And I just have always grown up with a deep love for Aina. Started with conservation, working at various places, going to many different community work days in my 20s and now 30s, here on the island and across the Pai'aina as well. Just trying to build pilina or connection to place by getting my hands dirty, meeting like-minded people who are interested in this work as well. And as a food access alaka'i or leader here at Mālama Kauaʻi, I've been able to meet some really amazing farmers that really dedicate their lives to feeding people and stewarding the land that they're taking care of now and really care about our future. And it just creates this like passion to keep going and try and create programs that include more and more people that are interested in it too. So our programs at our org are pretty vast. We do a lot of farmer support, direct farmer support, education and assistance. Over the years, we've hosted many different Mahi ʻAi workshops and webinars, and also done farmer studies and needs assessments. We also have hosted dinners and talk story sessions to gather our farmers, to give them that opportunity to get off their farm and actually just be around a bunch of people that value that time together. We're also deeply invested in Farm to School. We've been the Farm to School network lead since 2018. Back in 2010, they started the Kauaʻi School Garden and Farm Network as well, and that's still up and running. We have some cool updates in that realm too. So if you're interested in Farm to School, reach out to us. Mālama Kauaʻi has been a food access coordinator since 2018, and that just means we really try to gather folks that are working with our community in different ways and getting them all in the same room to share updates and opportunities to collaborate, but then also to try to eliminate duplications and instead just try to like make our powerful force even more so by working together. We're also really well known for our emergency response, especially during the floods of 2018, the pandemic. We did not stop. Our work actually ramps up when there's an emergency. We're there to help get food to people who are cut off because the road is closed, or because, you know, funding is really low because people are laid off. All kinds of ways to kind of like use our money that comes in either federally or from other grant sources or donors and try and get it out to the farmers who then can feed the families. So we do free food distributions. We've done these at schools, to low-income housing complexes. We do a gleaning program, so it's called Village Harvest. And it's really just like trees that don't get picked and fruit falls on the ground. We try and catch that fruit before it leaves the tree and put it into our bins and get it to our kupuna and our keiki through those feeding distributions that we run. And that's all by volunteer power, as well as one staff coordinator who just keeps it all running. And then we buy and sell food through our food hub. It's a really cool online grocery store, basically, is what I like to say, similar to Amazon. You scroll on your phone or your computer, fill up your cart with local groceries. It gets dropped off, or you can pick it up weekly. And that's just a fun way to support local. We accept SNAP EBT or food stamps. And then with that is the Bucks program, where SNAP beneficiaries get 50% off local food local fruit and vegetables, as well as poi. And they can just like boost their federal dollar. And then we also just recently started accepting WIC. So that's really cool, and we're really proud of doing that. So yeah, in a nutshell, we dynamically fill the needs of our community as it relates to food security. And this cool picture is 500 pounds of poi distributed through our most recent summer feeding program, Kauaʻi for Keiki, where we were filling meal boxes and dishing them out to kids in need over the summer across the island. So we're just really stoked on that program and always want to highlight the amazing partners that we had to make it happen. And so I'll move our little guy over here. So we really like to support farmers. Everything we do is to increase food production and access to that food. So how we treat those who produce our food or grow our food, raise our food is everything to us. We've distributed over $725,000 in grants to farmers. We supported farms with 40 plus interns over the year. We also provide a quarterly farmer newsletter just to keep people up to date with grants, educational events, resources. We'll write and or sponsor or fiscally sponsor grants for farming groups like we've done in the past. Again, hosted tons of workshops, expos, special events. We also share buyer demand with vendors quarterly. And that's just to help them kind of, strengthen their business based on their actual customers and feedback, just so that they can increase their sales. And really, we listen and then we act. We really move with a sense of urgency. When people telling us things, we try to turn it into action fairly quickly. You can go to mālamakauaʻi.org where we house all of our research and papers, farmer surveys and focus groups, as well as our Kauaʻi food access plan with 11 objectives that we're working towards to achieve by 2030. So that's really like the blueprint of our work based on the specific needs of our community and who engaged with those food access plan meetings that we hosted back in 2023. But yeah, it all lives on mālamakauaʻi.org. You can go geek out over there. I will proudly present to you our food hub. She's pretty beautiful. Took 3 years to complete, built out in phases as we raised funds for capital as we phased out and built. Took about $3 million. This is in Moloa'a, next to the water tank. It was launched so our food hub itself, before this facility was completed, launched in 2020 as a direct response to the pandemic, when a lot of the farmers markets closed down and our farmers were coming to us telling us like, I have nowhere to sell all this food, right? Because the food didn't stop growing. And so we launched this food hub to address that issue immediately and make the food accessible to our customers in that way. So the food hub currently helps 100 plus food producers to market and then distribute their products island-wide. We have over 100 commercial clients and over 1,200 resident customers that use our food hub. Like I said, we accept SNAP, the Bucks, and WIC. And then we also shop from our food hub to fill the produce bags and summer meal boxes in our kupuna and keiki feeding programs. And so each year we purchase over $500,000 in local food products since 2020. I think last year we smashed that goal and got up to 700,000 something. We're crunching numbers right now to see where we're at this year. So we'll keep you posted. But yeah, to shop for local groceries through our food hub, it's called kauaʻilocalfood.com, and you can go check it out. And let's see. So this is super fun. So this is just to give producers an idea of how to sell through our food hub, because it's not like you're going to set up a booth at the farmer's market, sit there for 6 hours and like sell as much as you can, or 2 to 3 to 4 hours, however long your market goes till. You don't have to load up your van with everything you've got. We do it all automatically, like it's automated through our system. This is some of the low that one of our kalo farmers sells on the site. So this green picture of this beautiful green luau leaf with the Bucks logo on it, that's what customers see on our site. And then they can see the price, how many are available, pick out the quantity, add it to the cart. Pretty basic. And then when you get it, you'll get it packaged. either in plastic or hopefully not. We're trying to get out of the plastic. So compostable bags are our friends. Buying in bulk is amazing. We really try to do zero waste as much as possible, but by also maintaining the integrity and quality of the products that you get, and that the farmer so lovingly raised for you. And so this is how you sell through our food hub. You'll sign up on kauaʻilocalfood.com, the same place that customers will go to buy. You go to sign up as a producer. There's a little button in the bottom right-hand corner. Once you sign up, you can email vendors@malamakauaʻi.org a picture of a voided check. And this is so that we can sign you up with direct deposit to make it easy. We're not having to mail checks. You're not having to wait for checks to come in the mail. It just gets dropped into your bank account. We find that super clean, and then money doesn't get lost in the post. And then we'll talk with you and discuss your products and sales strategy. Set up the products in our system with pricing and pretty pictures so that, it makes it tantalizing for our customers. And then customers shop online. What sells, what you sell gets emailed to you as a pick ticket. And that's what we'll refer to, and that you'll find in your email. And that tells you exactly what was sold. And that's the things that we want you to harvest or make or gather, and then drop off to us at any one of those pickup sites, either Lawai, Lihue, Moloa'a, or Kilauea. And then you get paid within 14 days, and we just keep repeating that cycle. And so you don't have to be committed to like every month, every week. You kind of can go with your flow and your seasons and your harvest. All right, so now that you know the deets on how to become a producer, I'll talk to you about being a part of our Hui Hānai ʻAi cohort. And so I'll just start with the name. Hānai ʻAi is used very commonly in Hawaiian culture. It's to feed. When you hanai someone, I know that's also like in terms of like adopting. But when you hanai ʻAi, it's to feed or give food to, and you're a food provider. And so that's the type of hui that we're trying to create here in this cohort, this program. Hui Hānai ʻAi is a 9-month cohort. So it's 2 years funded, and we have 2 cohorts. So year 1 just wrapped up, and we're gonna have a dinner soon. So I'm really looking forward to gathering with those cohort members. And so now we're launching year 2 cohort. And so this is the opportunity for you to participate in this 9 months program. And really it's to support Kauaʻi-based Indigenous food producers. When we say Indigenous, we mean Native Hawaiian and Native American, because this funding is coming from the Native American Agriculture Fund. These Indigenous food producers are specifically farmers, ranchers, and value-added food producers. And we help by offering technical assistance, or what we say TA. We also support with marketing and distribution services through our food hub that I just talked about, and then also grant funds to scale your commercial businesses. And we want to say commercial, like as much as I kāko'o and deeply respect our subsistence farmers and gatherers and hunters. This specific program is for commercial businesses. So those who are interested in selling to our community through our food hub. Just want to make that one clear. This is a 2-year grant funded by the Native American Ag Foundation. Like I said, this money is specifically coming from a trust established from the Keep Siegel versus Vilsack class action lawsuit settlement funds. And so essentially, USDA was called out for discriminating against the Indigenous people who were applying for their grant programs. There was a lawsuit against them, and after like a decade of fighting in the courts, they came to a settlement, and there was a big dollar amount that was given. And this foundation was created, and this trust is where that money is coming from. If you go to their website, which I can link in the description in the YouTube part, you can go read up on it. It's very fascinating. And so the focus of this is to, because of that lawsuit and specifics on where the money is coming from, the focus of this grant program is to increase you, the Indigenous producer, your access to capital. Which is why we host this webinar and why we want to share funding with you, amongst other many other reasons. And so exploring gaps in our food system based on available Food Hub data is one of the things that we're going to do in this program. We're also wanting to fill those gaps collaboratively to support a cooperative system of distribution that puts residents, especially our most vulnerable, first. And so for us, our mission is to serve keiki, kupuna, and low-income housing, or low-income residents, which we find are our most vulnerable community members. And then a little data point, approximately only 20.7% of our current Food Hub producers are Native Hawaiian. And you know, we can be sad about that, or we can just say, hey, that's a lot of room for growth, and we want to make this happen, you know. So that's why this program was also created, to kind of help get folks scaled up so that they're not just having to sell things roadside or at markets, but can actually broaden their market to a lot of bigger places, like how Eric had mentioned, the one farm in Waipio who sells to Costco. You know, if that's your goal and in part of your strategy, you know, that's not necessarily ours. Like, we want to keep our food in our community and accessible, but we do have a Costco here on the island. But yeah, you know, we'll talk about it. Okay. So the award. So this previous grant, year one cohort, we gave out 8 awards in 2024. And so year 2, we have 14 awards, which will be made in 2025, right at the beginning of the year. And so 14 awardees or grantees, however you want to call yourself, they'll get one-on-one TA with me, monthly check-ins to reach your food biz goals. You'll also get $5,000 in grant funding, and that's for you to buy tools, equipment, capacity building items that will support your long-term growth. And then you'll also get marketing and distribution support through our Food Hub and our Food Hub team. We'll also get you signed up in our Native Hawaiian Business Directory with Kanaka Economic Data Alliance, and they're really awesome with great supportive resources. And then we'll end the program after 9 months with a cohort dinner that we will totally feed you really well with locally sourced Aina Aipono foods, and create a space for us to network, connect with the other awardees that were in this program as well, and vala'o and have a good time. And that is Lo'ea in this picture. He's a kalo farmer in Makaweli in Waimea, and he's part of our year 1 cohort, and really awesome. He got to build a wash station on his kalo farm, putting in irrigation, and purchase mature fruit trees to grow more food on his land alongside the kalo that he's been growing. All right, so we'll get to some nitty-gritties. And so here are some ways in which you can use your grant funds. And so we want you to remember, when you're applying for this, like, the grant funds are meant to be used as long-term investment in your business growth, and not to support your operation costs, which essentially should be built into your business plan already, right? Like, you should be making enough so that you can pay for those operational costs, and hopefully pay for yourself and your time, right? Like, you want to grow. And so these are like long-term investment items, right? And so some ideas, we've got on the left-hand side of this table, the business, which is, we'll say a small livestock farm. It can be a chicken farmer, goat farmer, pig farmer. Some eligible expenses can be fencing materials to expand your flock or herd. It can be storage containers for your feed to keep the ratatouilles out in the wind and the rain and all that stuff. So you can also buy in bulk to lower your cost. Some things you can't buy. You cannot buy feed. You cannot buy baby animals, and you cannot buy medicine for those animals. Those are all operational costs. For the value-added product maker, we could cover with the grant funds a deposit for your first commercial kitchen use. You can buy cooking or packaging equipment like that super sexy Vitamix or heat sealer you've been eyeing up, even some large pots, a steamer or pressure cooker. You can purchase a cold storage unit. You also, if you're a value-added maker, you cannot just buy kitchen stuff. You gotta also be part of the ag world. So you do have to be growing something that you're making and selling, but I'll go into that a little bit more. And then some things you can't buy is like packaging, supplies or ingredients, or use the funds to pay the rent for your commercial kitchen, just that first month deposit. Produce farmer, oh gosh, this was fun. We got to buy a lot of these things on this list in the first cohort. So greenhouse, mature fruit trees, wash station build out, power tools, permanent irrigation, storage shed, fencing, weed mat, all the things, equipment to make your own fertilizer even. Super cool, definitely eligible, and we highly recommend. Some things that are not eligible, again, operational cost kind stuff. So fertilizer, seeds, and starter plants are not allowed. But the mature fruit trees can, because they're long-term and they're bigger. But yeah, if you have questions here, please reach out. And then we just want to reiterate and see some of these things were bought in cohort 1. Chris bought a bunch of materials on this bottom left-hand corner. A lot of the materials, I'll say, because he did source locally for some of the stuff, but like from his farm, he cut down some trees and put some posts in. But for the most part, most of this raceway or aquaponics system is we purchased the materials for this so that he could grow watercress on the farm that he has. And then Uncle Branch in Lawai got a brand new greenhouse, which is super cool, to house the nursery and expand that nursery that he already had going. And then Sierra bought a really cute shed that's like the perfect size for her and her daughter and her ohana to house their equipment and some of their supplies for their farm. So super cool things. So we want you to dream big, buy the big stuff you wouldn't normally invest in. You know, this is not the time to be frugal. Like just, I mean, you can be, of course. I know farmers are super resourceful. We make use with what get. I'm down for that value, but this is a great time for that big purchase with this funding. And then I just want to reiterate equipment and supplies that increase the business efficiency or production is what you want to go for and think about when you're putting together your list, your wish list. Majority of your expenses must be agricultural related. So we cannot spend all your money on just kitchen equipment alone. You got to be growing something, because this is, again, coming from the Native American Agricultural Foundation. So really for farmers and ranchers, we're stretching it out to value-added producers to include them, but you do have to grow at least one thing, at least, you know, grow at least one thing that you're putting into the products that you're then selling. And then keep it items that increase capital value of your business. No single item can cost over $5,000, because that would make it an equipment purchase, which is outside of these grant funds. And then while we know labor is something that you all are in need of, Labor and time are like the biggest needs of all of the farmers that we talk to. Unfortunately, labor is not an allowable expense on its own in this program. And so we can talk about what that means further. And there's me. So what we're looking for, Native Hawaiian or Native American, Kauaʻi based food producers with previous experience in our sales who are dedicated to their business being a success. So that just means don't just, we want a long-term relationship with not just your business, but with us too. Our food hub needs more Native Hawaiian producers. You can be a farmer, a rancher, value-added maker. Some of your ingredients should be grown by you. We're not interested in products made 100% from Costco. Please, this is an ag-focused grant. Products being targeted are in demand in the market and focus on diversity. And I have a whole nerdy slide with all kinds of stuff that are in demand that I'll share with you. Previous grantees, you're eligible. But you must be compliant with and on target to reach the goals of any other grants that you may have received from us. And then bonus, if you're already an active vendor and already selling to us, you get bonus points because we know you follow through. Okay, super nerdy in-demand sheet. Here it goes. We highlighted some things that we're like super looking forward to selling on our food hub. Citrus is always in demand. This is weird. Why would you do that? Okay. Citrus is always in demand. It's definitely a specialty, like specialty citrus are also really in demand too. They're great for our keiki programs and our kupuna love them as well. But so does the community. Husk coconuts, figs, and lilikoi are also really in demand. Also orange or white sweet yams are something we've been looking for a long time. But anything honestly on this list, we're down to help boost your production on your farm to grow and then supply to us through our food hub. And don't worry, I can send you the slides, but you can always like screenshot this and save that to look over for more. All right. We've reached the end and I just want to like solidify the timeline for you guys. Sorry. And so applications are open. Sorry, I didn't actually update this slide, but applications opened in August. Grant info session is this right here. Woohoo, check one. And so the QR code is there for you to apply. And then there's also the link there for you to apply, tinyurl.com/Hānai ʻAi. The grant applications are processed as they come in. So the sooner you apply, the better. And I just get a notification every time somebody applies and then I reach out and then we move forward. Last chance to apply is December 31st. And then as the applications roll in, I reach out to you and we'll do an on-site interview in person with you. We want to be on your space, similar to what Jenna guys do. We want to come out and look around and, show us what your what you have in mind. And like Jenna even mentioned too, like it's so true. Like we can have these conversations on the phone or on Zoom, but until we're on your aina, there's so many things that come up while you're there because it's visual for you. It's on your mind. You're like reminded of like, oh yeah, this thing and over here. And so being on aina is also important for us. It gets me off my computer. And so, and gives me a chance to meet you in person and we can build that relationship that we're hoping for. And then February 1st is when all the grants will be awarded by this cutoff date. But we really hope to do that beforehand, but that's like our final cutoff. And then our monthly one-on-ones will start in February. And that's when the purchasing begins as well. And that's us like phasing out your budget and finalizing them and then moving forward with your projects. By August, we hope for you to be selling products on our food hub if you are not already, and that your purchases, all your grant purchases are complete by August. And then in September, all of your projects should be and like, you know, there, and then a final site visit will be conducted with me, and we can take pictures, make all kind paparazzi. You tell me your story about how well everything is going, and then we can, you know, share that through social media and to our funders to just be like, we're doing it. And then October is when we'll have that fun grantee dinner where you'll meet other grantees and just wala'au and network. And so yes, please apply as soon as possible. We encourage you, even if you have questions, just apply and I'll reach out and we can talk more. Please share this with others that you know in this realm on the island. If we don't have enough interest this time around, we might have to broaden to other islands. I'll just say that, but I would love to keep it Kauaʻi based. Yeah. And then you can call or email me. My email address is there, and so is my extension to the work line. So, mahalo.
Was reminded of a couple of things I was hoping I could maybe mention real quick.
Sure, of course. Let me remove the pin and stop
Okay.
pinning and click all these buttons. Just you guys know Zoom. It's so crazy. Okay, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so I did want to mention, because I totally forgot, is that NRCS does work with subsistence farmers, because back a few farm bills ago, we did have the requirement for at least $1,000 a year in sales. That no longer exists.
Oh.
So yardners, subsistence farmers, all kinds of people can come in and apply if they want technical assistance, or if they want to sign up for programs, that works too. But I did want to point out that Native Hawaiian and Native American farmers, they are considered historically underserved for us. And I know I mentioned that, like, you know, how forever ago in the presentation. So that is the higher cost share rate. And then that's also, they would qualify for an advance payment. So they could get some funding from us to help just start installing the practice or implementing the practice.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Did you say yardners?
I did.
That's great.
I'm such a dork. I don't know.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I heard it somewhere and I'm just a nerd who latched on.
That's cool. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching this this recording. Again, all the contact information is going to be in the bio, and please reach out to any of us for any of your needs, whether it's loans, cost share, TA, or you want to be a part of this grant program here on Kauaʻi. Holla at us, and mahalo nui loa. Appreciate you.